Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rational Investors daily recap of our daily brief. I have class to teach here in about a half an hour, so I better get going here. We should try and keep this to 10 minutes. It is Friday today. We have options expiry today. Julian talked lots in yesterday's show about the options pin, so it really shouldn't surprise us that the market is basically parked right against these highs. And as I think he pointed out, there's a lot of call open interest just above here. So I don't think we're going to see too much more upside in the stock market looking at the S&Ps right now. But nonetheless, we had an algo short signal that came in. We're starting to see signs of uppy here. I think probably, this is still definitely a work in progress, trying to figure out how best to trade this algo and its signal. I know the NASDAQ came very close to its take profits level, but in this particular case, we made a pretty far way down, but as you can see, we're starting to break previous highs here. And I'm going to, for the record paper trade, just say that if we get back to scratch, that we just walk away at scratch. So let's see what happens. Just an update. Of course, we have G20 coming up here. And we're probably seeing a lot of position squaring, maybe even some anticipation that the market we'll actually get some good news through that G20 event. Through the daily brief today, Thomas pointed out a couple interesting long ideas. I don't know whether I'm too jazzed about going long names that are sort of the middle of their ranges. But Thomas did point out the bank stocks have come right back down against their lows. And I did notice earlier today there was news out about the Federal Reserve down in the States recently did a stress test of the major banks, and they all seem to pass with flying colors. I think it makes sense. We can understand why Wells Fargo here is turning where it did, good old reload zones. Nice double bottoms coming in. I'm not quite sure whether we have any divergences in play here yet. Yeah, there's a little bit of a nice little bull div there. Willie was technically stupid when we were down at the bottom end of the range. So I could understand a nice counter trend rally if you wanted to maybe think about trying to play this W. I probably wait for some sort of pullback following the G20 event. Do notice there's a bit of a gap down here. But as I said, this probably isn't a trade that I would consider. But nonetheless, those that are hunting trade ideas, keep your eyes on the financials. Thank you, Thomas, for pointing that out. I suppose also too for the level twoers adjusted volume profile, this isn't a bad example. The market asked whether it wanted to be below value. It gapped lower, then gapped back up, creating an island bottom. And in essence, I think this is our message that the market is accepted back into value. And 80% of the time, we should see the market trade back up to value high. And you notice there's some cheeky little gaps right up in this area just above value here. So I could see a rally there, but I don't think I could be a buyer at these levels. Maybe a nice little dip against these lows, and I might consider it. Thomas also talked a little bit about how the transports are giving some really interesting sort of wonky messages. In a few minutes, we'll talk a little bit about an oil trade that I picked up here recently. The algo did give us a signal on oil recently, which was bullish. And that has yet to really either break down and move the remaining position stop out or break to the upside. My hunch is as this M or potential W plays out, that's probably going to sort of guide us going forward here. And of course, as I said, heading into G20 and that kind of conversation, we probably want to wait for the sort of outcome of that conference to get a resolution here. If the crude does continue powering higher, it probably will mean that these oil names that we bought recently will do well. But it probably also means that the transports are going to still be under pressure. And I think Thomas pointed out that you could make a pretty good argument that we have a megaphone pattern working on the transports right now, suggesting quite a bit more volatility down the road, both to the upside and to the downside. Is there a trade here for me to do? No, it's just hands off for me right at the moment. Probably not a bad idea to take a moment, talk a little bit about Bitcoin. And actually, maybe what we'll do here is why don't we we'll dovetail the Srci energy. This was the oil stock that I recently picked up. If we are seeing wild volatility in the transports, that might just, and I showed you the crude oil algo trade is still sort of working away. This was an idea that we picked up recently, and I posted this in the lounge this morning. I mean, this is basically everything that we do at TRI. Try to identify stocks that have just been crushed, where 50% rule is quite a bit far away from where the current market is. Let the weekly W's come in. If we change this to a weekly price chart, I think you can see the W, boom, 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 boom. And then once the W has come in, let's start hunting reload zones. And in this particular case, you can see as we came into reload zones, we started to put in bullish divergences. Our overbought, oversold indicator was oversold, and in comes a beautiful W, and we just basically pull the trigger on the W breakout, and you can see this name's performing nicely for us here. All right, so that's sort of the transports crude sort of commentary. My hunch is if energy stocks are pointing higher, then they're expecting energy to continue moving higher. So I'm feeling pretty good that energy is going to catch a bit of a bid here, which again, like I said a moment ago, probably means more volatility in the transport sector. Okay, so let's finish off last 3 or 4 minutes here of this recap with just a quick conversation about crypto and Bitcoin. For whatever it's worth, everybody, I'm going to hold to the message I said the other day. I don't really like the idea of putting on shorts blindly at fib levels. I do completely understand. I don't know whether it's going to show on this CME contract. Oh, yeah, there it is. I do completely understand that, Mountain Man level, that was a pretty darn important level for CME traders. And also, too, and I don't know whether it's going to show on this CME contract, but we had a really interesting bullish AB equals CD harmonics. I guess that one's off a little bit lower level. But maybe I went off of here. I can't remember. But on things like the weekly stamp chart, I've shown this repeatedly. Message really hasn't changed here. Mountain Man 61.8, the bottom end of reload zone, and also too up against this original market structure failure. And then there's AB equals CD extension level. Not a big surprise to see price pull back from there. What I think really ended up happening here is that the market just caught all the kids that were going along on the crazy face rip, FOMO. Oh my God, I'm going to miss this bull market. I better get in now. We talk about bot levels being hit and how they should be taking profits, and the public's coming in on the buy side here, and the public gets bitch slapped here. As I just said a moment ago, off of this CME contract, what I find really interesting is all they've done is they've just brought price back down into a short-term moving average support level. So ironically enough, and I know this is going to drive everybody crazy, but I could actually perfectly logically start hunting new long setups if this thing starts Wing out and algos start getting happy again. I could definitely see new long setups coming, but this is going to take some time, right? The last algo signal, it got stopped out, move stop as new highs are being formed. This market came down into these levels here, pulled back, rallied up, busted this. I think, at the very least, you could walk away if this is the CME contract off of those levels. And ironically enough, you can see how this is a double top. We had sort of said the other day, probably not a good idea to distance fail level. So anybody who did want to get off of long positions, actually, I think you're getting your liquidation window right in here. And through the weekend, if we don't crap out here, and I've just told everybody in the daily brief, watch this uptrend line very closely on stamp. If we start losing it and then M out on the other side of it, then that dead cat bounce counter trend rally is done. But, you know, through the weekend here, I really wouldn't be surprised if we worked our way right back up into this original reload zone. And then we'll start thinking about, okay, have the higher time frame charts start to top out? Are they starting to flash like daily sell signals and stuff? But I thought it was interesting. You know, there is no divergence here. Volume OBV studies have not topped out yet. And it just looks to me like everybody's just slowly falling asleep here, waiting for some sort of consolidation and then the resolution of that consolidation to actually set up the next trade. The only other thing I'll leave you off with here today, I'm personally interested in Novogratz stock. You know, I actually wouldn't mind picking some of this up for my registered account here in Canada. I've been watching this bullish bot setup develop, and I noticed somebody came in pretty hard on the buy side there the other day, and it's like literally sitting right at the bot level. So that's about 50 cents worth of risk, or about 20%. I'm thinking I might just go pick up a board lot here and just risk against these bot lows. So that's just an FYI, new idea for you to chew on if you are in Canada. I don't think this trades overseas, but it might. But if this bot does work, I'll be looking for like 385 on the upside. Okay, I think we'll leave the recap at that for today. You know, we are coming into the weekend, G20. Don't be surprised if Bitcoin does quite a bit of price movement through all that. And as I had sort of said repeatedly, the message from me of late is it was too late to be a buyer on these kind of moves up top. But I actually ironically think that, you know, specifically like shorting, I think it's still too early to start aggressively hunting shorts. And, you know, for all those people that were long, not a bad idea to keep in the back of your mind, keep in your trading plan, and not a bad idea to be spoon feeding the market. You know, lower time frames, we had bots, algos, all those kind of things trading. They all got stopped out at respective levels and profit target levels. And, you know, if you had bought this $4,000 low, spoon feeding the market some of your profitable position isn't such a terrible idea. Okay, I think I'll leave it at that for today. Off to class. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. All the best. Oh, I'm supposed to also say, if you like the show, come and join TRI. Is this a public offering? I don't know whether this is public or not. We do have a 7-day trial, and you can gain access to our community along with a full 1-hour shows with Brian and other veteran traders. Oh, this sounds so salesmanish. I think I'll have to continue working on this pitch, but I'm going to leave it at that. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. All the best, and bye for now.